Rule 29 on day 29 of the P. Diddy trial. So basically, his attorneys has filed for what is called a Rule 29 of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedures, address the motion for a judgment of acquittal. So I'm going to read over what this means and why his attorneys are trying to file for basically an acquittal of the case. So basically, it's timing. A defendant may file a motion for a judgment of acquittal after the government has presented its evidence, but before the case is submitted to the jury. The grounds for motion is the motion argues that the evidence presented is insufficient to sustain a conviction. Court rules, the court must view the evidence in the light most favorable of the prosecution, when deciding on the motion. The outcome, if the court grants the motion, it results in the dismissal of the charges against the defendant. Additional context, Rule 29 is crucial for protecting defendants from wrongful convictions based on inadequate evidence. The rule is part of the broader framework that governs criminal procedures in federal court, ensuring fair trial standards. So basically what that is entailing is that they're saying that the prosecution did not prove their case against their client. And now P. Diddy took the stance that he does not want to testify in his case. I told you the judge was going to ask him, what do you want to do? And if whether or not this was something you wanted, or was it something that was forced upon you? And basically he answered and said that he wanted not to take a stand, under the guidance of his counselors telling him not to. So he did acknowledge that his attorneys he did say to the judge that this was a decision all on his own, because in the end, like I told you, it's all based on what he wants, not what anybody else wants. And it simply has to be his decision. And he has made that decision not to testify. Now, the prosecution has rest, and the defense basically said they're not calling any witnesses. They're just basically going to use text messages to show why they do not feel that the prosecution has proven their case. Now, I will stand on this and say I honestly do not feel like Jane is a victim. Now, on that note, I'm sorry, I don't see it. She was a willing participant as long as he was paying him $10,000 for her rent. She could care less. That woman was in love with that man. And in fact, I think that's probably one of the weaker sides of their case when it comes to the prosecution. But there are so many other things that have been proven, far as whether or not he actually falls in the line of RICO. There has been so many things established on that, from the bribery to the arson to using his people as far as his staff for organized crime. And no, the business does not have to be an illegal business, or it doesn't have to be a business solely set out for committing crimes, but you can use a legitimate business and turn it into criminal purposes, which is what he did. So there is evidence showing he used business funding in order to make his desires happen, and it doesn't have to be anything other than they were just trying to please him. There was the act of pleasing him. So the evidence that they've presented does show that. It also shows that, and in it, it has to have other people just other than him. And they did name KK as a co-conspirator to what he was doing, but as well as his own employees helped him achieve what he needed to achieve, whether it was the bodyguards that were bringing people back against their will, whether it was KK that was strongly suggesting that things happened that he wanted, or things wasn't going to work out the way he wanted them to, constantly coercing victims to do what Diddy wanted them to do. He treated his staff as if they was the SEAL Team 6, aka the Navy SEAL for P. Diddy. That was ridiculous. There was also where he basically blackmailed Cassie's parents in order to, if they didn't give him $20,000, that he was going to expose them. There was also testimonies and name and events mentioned that prove all these things that he has done, far as transporting prostitutes cross state lines for the very act of prostitution, dressed up as escorts. It was all this stuff, you know. It was drug trafficking, and even KK, even in her text messages, proved that she too was moving drugs. I know I said it the first time, throughout his organization, and they were using business funds in order to make those things happen. So there are just so many different things that I just can't see how the judge could give him an acquittal, even if he wanted to, because there's just so many things pointing to, sir, you're guilty. So, I mean, we have to wait and see. Now, tomorrow, I do not think that they're going to have court tomorrow. Everything is going to get postponed until Thursday, where at that time, they will give their closing statements and arguments to the jury. And then the jury will be given instructions on how to go about coming to their decision in their deliberation. They will have to go through transcripts. They will have to go through evidence. They will have to talk amongst themselves and unanimously give him a conviction. Now, I think the issue is going to boil down to what the attorneys say is the closing statement and who they can convince guilty or innocent. Will the prosecution be able to make a statement as to he is truly guilty of these RICO charges, or the defense be able to persuade them to say they didn't do anything? Well, I think if that judge don't give him an acquittal to show that they didn't prove it, will be a direct knock against the defense as to that yes, they did prove, you know, he's guilty of this. And yeah, so there's a lot still to happen here. But far as the case is closed, far as hearing any more testimony and evidence, when it comes to P. Diddy. But now it begins. The deliberation, the instructions, the closing arguments, and what we're all been waiting to hear, whether or not P. Diddy, aka the Diddler, Mr. Hotel Nights, Freak Offs, and King's Night, and Wild King's Night star, is guilty of these RICO charges. Go ahead and drop your comment at the bottom of this comment section so we can discuss and talk, and you can share your opinions on how you feel. Do you feel that it has been proven that he is guilty of the RICO charges and the crimes that are outlined, the 31 charges that he can be charged with under RICO, but we only need 2 over a 10-year period. Just 2, y'all. We don't need 31. Just 2 have been proven for the RICO, and whether or not he is going to face federal charges and spend the rest of his living years behind bars. Or do you think the defense have done their job and have proven his innocent without reasonable doubt whatsoever? The fact that his attorneys didn't even have any witnesses, although they've been making the prosecution believe that they have, should also speak volumes to everybody. That they know they don't have a case to win for their client, and they really was reliant on mistrials and now acquittals. So go ahead and drop y'all comments down there. Do you think old lying behind President Trump gonna pardon his way right on up out of here? I personally think he has enough on his plate, and he needs to leave this well alone. Y'all, he needs to just let this go. Let it go, Trump. Just let it go. And let the law do what they do. As always, be your brothers and your sisters' keeper. Keep God first. Don't forget to check out that merch that I have for my channel as on my description, so that way you can order to help support my channel, as well as hit that like button, y'all, and subscribe to the channel. And as always, toodles. See you later.